people have their own lives. Every time our graphic artist leaves, I learn a little bit more to carry me through till we hire another one. And one day I just started doing it, and it made sense for me to do it.
It's
So
really
that's
cool. I mean, I think that's so awesome. I feel the same way on sort of a couple of the projects I work on, which is I became so much more, I mean, people weren't around. I got irritated. I just ended up learning it myself. And in some way, it gave me more control. Like, it's exactly the way I want it to be. And I really like that about it. So it's interesting that you've taken that over.
yeah, and I totally 100% agree with everything you just said there, because it's like if I started feeling like, okay, I was sitting with the person telling them what to do, so my time was being used up anyways,
Right.
and I think it's really helped our business, and I guess that's that I have been able to do that. I've completely taken the website on, and that's only been like 11 months ago.
Wow. That's great.
so, so that's very new to me. But so that's what I do. And my husband does the finance, and he does for system operations. And he works at a good place than I do. I have my own studio, separate from where the offices are. And there, let's see, at the where the offices are is where the printer and the kidder are. So that would be Mike and Denise do that, and we have a bookkeeper named Donna, and she's great. And then Lavelle does our social media and marketing, and marketing email blasts, things like that. And then we have, let's see, Kathleen does some sewing for us and helps with the new product and trade shows. And we have a few people that don't live in our same town that help us, like when we go to a trade show. So it's kind of it almost feels like right now, due to the computer being so easy that you can email and, sending files, that you can work with people in different areas. So it sort of almost feels like we've got the village taking care of company.
It's really remarkable, isn't it? And I feel like, we've been doing this on, I'm an entrepreneur professor at the university, so we've kind of watched all these different trends, and it's just there's so many tools, and it's just easier at this point. Like, again, to create the village, to stay connected, it's remarkable to sort of see how much the internet has influenced how people are running their businesses on every level.
Yeah.
Every single level. It's really remarkable.
I'm sure you guys are dealing with this, and I guess I'm sure you're dealing with it, and if you're not, I hope you will. But the whole that's one of the big issues right now. It's in the quilting industry. The shops are tending to go away a bit, mm-hmm. and the internet shops are picking up. And I think in the beginning, people thought that, but everyone's going to want to touch and feel the fabric, which I know I do. Luckily for us, the interfacing, you could trace it, I suppose, but it won't be as accurate. So us selling the interfacing is something that the customer still needs, but they can buy it online, and that's a real tricky spot to be in as a manufacturer, is because we have our own website and we sell direct to consumer, but we also sell direct to shops who we consider being customer again, and also to distributors, and they take a cut, so a big cut. So there's all these issues surrounding that the shops are buying from the distributors because it's easy and they can order online and they get all these perks and free shipping. But that's made our bottom line go down a bit because we're selling more to the distributors, which is how our customer wants to buy. So we have to balance that all out. And also the part that is pretty difficult with the internet is that it's very easy for someone to take our Mondo bag pattern, and like there was one guild that did this, and they just took a picture of it and plopped it right on their website.
Yeah.
Here's the free instructions.
Right. Exactly.
So,
right.
and you try to, I can't remember if they had what kind of site they had. It seems to me it was a Google. And you can Google, or you can write to them and say, hey, this person doesn't have the right to put this on. This is our pattern. And we tried that. And they sent back and they said, well, you have to tell us who you are and prove to us that you are the ones who own the pattern. And they came back at it so many times with so many questions. It was awful. It just made you not want to deal with it. So that's kind of a thing right now that I suspect will be worked out, but I'm not sure how.
That's really interesting that they don't believe. Well, you can sort of see it, right? So we don't try. It's hard to know who's really who. That's really, really interesting. One of the things I think is super interesting about your product is, and we'll take a look. I'm looking at the double wedding ring. First of all, the design of the thing is really cool. The way it looks, it kind of opens up like a book, and that's really great.
Oh, you like it?
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting, and I've sort of started to sort of be really into is, and you've got the copyright notice on it, so people, that's all important too, so that's great. But is this concept of consumables. If you just have a pattern, say a log cabin, and you make a version of the log cabin and you try to sell it on Etsy, and then people copy it or they already know how to do it because they look at it, it's frustrating for people. But what you offer are consumables, the interface. So that's where it's not necessarily, you don't own the copyright to a double wedding ring. You're not claiming that. But people, I think once they like your stuff, I'm assuming come back, so that's where you're making your money on new customers and new quilters, and then repeat customers that want the interface on the bolts.
Right.
It's the consumable that seems viable in a market that's like the internet, because it's a lot of work to replicate it in a way that's...
Well, we found it's a very unique skill set too. It's not, because you basically need graphic artistry, you need knowledge of quilting patterns, and you need to be pretty much, let's take Pelon. We buy our raw goods from them and a couple others, but sometimes. But for them to take their absolutely huge machines and print a pattern that's like the double wedding ring, they're going to have to invest so much, and it's a smaller, amount of people that are going to buy this. So they just tend to not do that because it's
just not worth it.
It's not worth it to them. And on the opposite side of the fence, you have the consumer who says, well, I don't want to buy it printed. That costs money. I'll do it myself. So they either trace or they try to copy it somehow through interfacing that can be printed on the printer. And then they find out later how expensive that is.
Right. Right.
And end up saying, okay, it's not worth it. And then you have somebody in the middle who might say, wow, I think that Quiltsmart really has something. Maybe we should try to do that. And We've had only very few companies doing that, because for the same thing, it's just like, okay, it's really we've been surprised that we haven't had a lot of people actually copying, interfacing, but
that's really interesting. So you feel like you really cornered the market there because of the skill set needed, and that it's not worth it to compete with you guys.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think that now we've been in long enough that I'm really not worried about it.
Yeah.
Things change. There's this thing floating around the industry that at least this is what people think. You could tell me different. That if you change a pattern 20%.
That's nothing. that's not a thing. There's no percentages.
No, that's crazy.
Yeah,
what is 20%? What is that?
Yeah, they say that about if when you copy stuff for classes, if you take there's always Yeah, no, and there's nothing. There's no numbers in the Copyright Act of how much you can change or take or any of that stuff. I mean, there's common sense and sort of thinking it through, right? But we're gonna do some work on that. And my goal with this project is twofold. One, to do some serious academic work that I'm excited about, but then also to make a book that's about what we're learning and explaining copyright and trademark and patents to quilters and to quilt entrepreneurs, so that they can have a better sense of what it is and what they want to deal with. So
you are so smart, because that would just, I would buy your book.
You'll buy the book. Okay, cool. I'll sign you up. I'll send you a copy. That sounds good. Well, that'll be the summer project. I think we're gathering we're learning a lot, and the students will start doing some research with me in the spring, and then we'll start probably writing in the summer. So that's kind of the idea, and then do one more.
Well,
at least
then
one more
we
year.
can have the seminar at Quilts Inc.
Yeah, we should. I'll talk to.
Somebody said to me once, just because somebody says no doesn't necessarily mean no.
Oh no, not at all. Yeah,
they're just not ready yet. So
Yeah.
you keep going back to them and you say, I think this is important. I would love to do this, and then eventually they might say, all right, talk to me a little more about it, or something like that.
Yeah, well, and they've been super nice. They've been really generous with letting us come and chat with us, and it's just been really super great.
That's great.
Yeah, I had other questions. What's my other question? I've kind of lost we just end up chatting, and then I get lost in my thoughts.
Well, you had asked me, did I answer your question about growth all right?
Yeah, it's really great. So here's my question. Okay, so I have identified at least 3 companies that are creating these, I'm saying, consumable goods. Yours, Judy Niemeyer with the paper piecing, right? It's cheaper. Uh-huh. It's better just to buy the pattern from them than make your own.
Yeah.
And sorry, I just swallowed wrong. June Taylor has batting that sort of acts like paper piecing. Do you know their kits? They just sent us a couple of those. Do you know of any other sort of major groups that have this kind of consumable model that we might look at? Because I think you guys are really super smart. I think you're the smartest ones out there.
Wow, can I quote you?
Definitely. Well, from an IP side, like people, I mean, it's the idea of kids have to buy workbooks, so they have to buy them every year, right? If you have a consumable that people keep having to buy, then you've created a market, as opposed to just a pattern where they could buy one and then copy it a whole bunch of times. So
right.
That's why I think it's and it's fun. I mean, it is really fun. I have to say, there are some things I've tried that were not as fun. And I'm really cool with I don't say oh, this wasn't fun. I'm just a little more reserved on being excited. But as I said, I'm really great at copyright. I'm a super smart person on copyright. I'm an okay quilter, and this made me feel like I succeeded in ways that I don't always succeed. So I really did I liked the process of it, and I'm excited to do the Lone Star. Is it the Lone Star?
You'll like that.
Yeah. So others that are doing kind of consumable, other companies we might look at.
I used. I'm not coming up with much.
Yeah, that's interesting.
In a way, you might say rotary cutting blades, because they eventually dull, but
yeah,
not really.
But you don't see anybody that's got pattern stuff on. There's just the 3 of you are the main dominant ones, right? You're doing it on interface, they're doing it on paper, and then the other one's doing it on batting. But there aren't other things we should be looking at. Those are kind of you guys are the 3 kind of big ones at the moment, right?
Yeah, and I'm trying to think, even in the sewing field, which is where I'm working towards crossing over.
Interesting.
I don't mean leaving this, but
yeah, but adding patterns. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Using the interface. That's really interesting.
I'll email you, but I'm looking at my entire studio, thinking what's consumable, and I'm seeing nothing but interfacing.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, super interesting. Okay, tell me about the Mondo bag and the craze, like there's